So I went to go and I think I'm a little bit behind. I went to go and watch the episode 3 of Doctor Who's The Gunfighters, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I watched this like yesterday or the day before. Oh man, like this is a forgettable serial. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'd like to read out aloud a passage describing how this serial differed from the historical fact, or what's been presumed to be the historical fact, of the events at the what are now known as the gunfight at the OK Corral. Initially, though, we're going to have to read about. I think it might be more useful to read. I was going to initially share that paragraph on the TARDIS data core, the Doctor Who fan wiki, about what distinguishes this serial from the real life events. Although it might be more useful to read out the real life events as the actual Wikipedia tells us they played, its opening paragraphs. It might be more useful to read that aloud first rather than second. The gunfight at the OK Corral was the 30-second shootout between lawmen led by Virgil Earp and members of a loosely organized group of outlaws called the Cowboys that occurred at about 3 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday, October 26, 1881 in Tombstone, Arizona Territory, United States. It is generally regarded as the most famous shootout in the history of the American Old West. The gunfight was the result of a long simmering feud. Cowboys Billy Claiborne, brothers Ike and Billy Clanton, and brothers Tim and Frank McClory were on one side. On the other side were Deputy U.S. Marshal and Town Marshal Virgil Earp, his two brothers and Special Policeman Morgan and Wyatt Earp, and Temporary Policeman Doc Holliday. Billy Clanton and both McClory brothers were killed. Ike Clanton, Billy Claiborne, and Wes Fuller ran from the fight. Virgil, Morgan, and Holliday were wounded, but Wyatt was unharmed. Wyatt is often erroneously regarded as the central figure in the shootout, although his brother Virgil was Tombstone's town marshal and deputy U.S. marshal that day, and had far more experience as a sheriff, constable, marshal, and soldier in combat. Virgil made the decision to enforce the city ordinance prohibiting carrying weapons in town and to disarm the cowboys. Wyatt was only a temporary assistant marshal to his brother. The shootout has come to represent a period of the Old West when the frontier was virtually an open range for outlaws, largely unopposed by lawmen who were spread thin over vast territories. It was not well known to the American public until 1931, when Stuart Lake published the initially well-received biography Wyatt Earp, Frontier Marshal, 2 years after Earp's death. The book was the basis for the 1939 film Frontier Marshal, with Randolph Scott and Cesar Romero, the 1946 film My Darling Clementine, directed by John Ford, amazing classic, and the 1957 film Gunfight at the OK Corral. Actually, the My Darling Clementine, that's shot by Joseph MacDonald, recently I viewed with Abracious Productions, The Yellow Sky, which is also shot by Joseph MacDonald. It's a phenomenal looking western, which I didn't know much about until that viewing experience. Shout out to him, thanks for pointing that out. Shooting it my way. And the 1957 film Gunfight at the OK Corral, after which the shootout became known by that name. Since then, the conflict has been portrayed with varying degrees of accuracy in numerous Western films and books, and has become an archetype for much of the popular imagery associated with the Old West. Despite its name, the gunfight did not take place within or next to the OK Corral, which fronted Allen Street and had a rear entrance lined with horse stalls on Fremont Street. The shootout actually took place in a narrow lot on the side of C.S. Fly's photography studio on Fremont Street, 6 doors west of the OK Corral's rear entrance. Some members of the two opposing parties were initially only about 6 feet, 1.8 meters apart. About 30 shots were fired in 30 seconds. Ike Clanton subsequently filed murder charges against the Earps and Holliday. After a 30-day preliminary hearing and a brief stint in jail, the defendants were shown to have acted lawfully. The gunfight was not the end of the conflict. On December 28, 1881, Virgil was ambushed and maimed in a murder attempt by the Cowboys. On March 18, 1882, a cowboy fired from a dark alley through the glass door of Campbell and Hatch's saloon and billiard parlor, killing Morgan. The suspects in both incidents furnished alibis supplied by other cowboys and were not indicted. Wyatt, newly appointed as Deputy U.S. Marshal in Cochise County, then took matters into his own hands in a personal vendetta. He was pursued by County Sheriff Johnny Behan, who had received a warrant from Tucson for Wyatt's killing of Frank Stillwell. And that's what we've got there. Oh, and now we'll read out what the TARDIS data core has to say about how the events of the serial differed from the historical account. The storyline of the serial makes several notable departures from the historical fact. In reality, Wyatt Earp was not the ranking marshal of Tombstone. Virgil was, and he deputized Wyatt as an emergency less than an hour before the battle. Kate Holliday probably spoke with a Hungarian accent, not the exaggerated American accent depicted in the show. Bat Masterson, Johnny Ringo, Warren Earp, and Phineas Clanton were not present in Tombstone in October 1881. Consequently, neither Ringo nor Phineas Clanton participated in the gunfight at the OK Corral and were therefore not casualties of it as portrayed here. Well, I knew that just because I'm pretty sure Michael Biehn portrays the Johnny Ringo character in Tombstone, and he's not at the gunfight at the OK Corral. He gets shot at the end by Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday there. So I knew that, at least. Warren Earp did not die until July 1900, almost 19 years after the events of this story take place. Phineas' brother Ike Clanton survived the gunfight, whereas their father Pa Clanton had died in August 1881, about 10 weeks before the battle. Conversely, no reference is made to 4 of the gunfight's actual participants: Morgan Earp, brother of Warren, Wyatt, and Virgil, and the Clanton brothers' fellow outlaw cowboys Billy Claiborne and Tom and Frank McClory. Furthermore, Doc Holliday was only 30 years old in 1881 in real life, whereas Anthony Jacobs was 48 in 1966. Wyatt was the only member of the Earp combat team who was not wounded. And I think that'll do for now, otherwise if this goes longer we'll get blocked for copyright, won't we? So tune in next time if you're so inclined. Thanks again, my friends.